All right then, hey, it's been a while since my last video. I've had a couple of weeks where I haven't really driven, so I haven't really been in the car and doing much, so didn't have much to talk about. But I thought I'd give a little update today. We had a couple of software updates come to the car, and most of them didn't really affect me. I didn't see anything that really impacted me, except for one thing, and this was a really kind of important thing as far as I was concerned. They fixed my biggest pet peeve in the car. You can actually take your hotspot and connect to the car, and then when you put the car in drive or reverse or whatever, it will stay connected. And that was like one of my biggest pet peeves. It's a really trivial thing, and kind of stupid, but I'm glad that they fixed that. So now it'll stay connected when I actually put the car in drive, which is nice. So I can be in park, set my car up, and decide that I want to use the hotspot. And then when I go to drive, it'll actually continue to be used. So that's really a nice feature, and I'm glad they finally fixed that one thing. Like I said, trivial, but it was important to me. There's still a couple of other little things that bother me just a little bit, but nothing major. So not driving a whole lot. I don't have much in the way of updates about the car itself. I've been charging and not charging and continuing to charge to about 80% most of the time. Once in a while, when I'm taking a road trip a little bit, I'll charge it up to 100 just because, I haven't done that in a while, and I'll take that road trip and then come back and put it at 80. Occasionally I'll let it run down a little longer when I'm driving. So I'm trying to use the battery efficiently, but most of the time just leaving it charging. So good discussions on my video, charging to 90% all of the time. That was a while ago that I put that video together, and a lot of good discussions people have had about continuing to charge your car. And it's interesting because I think there's a lot of varying opinions about what exactly the right way is to do it. I don't think there is a right way, a single right way. There are many ways that you can use your battery and use your car efficiently. And I think we're all kind of using it within these parameters because the software is so good at controlling how it uses the battery and how much energy it takes that I don't think you really need to worry about it to that specific level where you're worried about whether it's going to be doing it. Now, as I said in one of the responses to one of the comments on there, if you want to know more about how your battery health is, you can certainly download one of these apps that's available, and it lets you log into your car and collect data from your car, and then you can see how you're doing. I started creating an app like that for me just to see how my car was doing, and I realized that it wasn't really all that important to me after a while. I was seeing how I was doing, and it was like there was so much consistency that it wasn't really helping me. Now, it might be useful to do it again after a couple of years and really not driving a lot over the last year and a half or almost 2 years now. So, that'll be interesting to maybe experience what it looks like against, that backdrop. But otherwise, I don't think it really matters. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference that's going to be found from there. But if you're concerned about your battery, I would highly recommend you download one of these commercially available things, whether you're an Apple user, an iPhone user, or whether you're one of these Android or something. You could certainly download an app that would work for you that would let you see how your battery health is. So I'd recommend that if you're interested in seeing more. So that was the basic thing I wanted to talk about. One other little thing I wanted to bring up. It was interesting. I've been reading a lot more about some of these car companies and their plans and the things they're doing in getting into the electric vehicle space. And there's a couple of Chinese companies that have now produced their first car and have them in the markets. I don't believe they have them in the US yet, or if they do, it's only a couple of cars that they're sort of piloting here in the US. So it's interesting to see how people are coming along, the companies are coming along with these cars and actually starting to produce them now. So you're starting to see more competitors in the marketplace, and they have a vision for a price point that's a little bit more competitive than Tesla's as far as having an electric car. But again, Tesla's edge right now is the fact that they have the charging network. Until somebody else develops a charging network that's efficient, we'll have to wait and see how these turn out. But really neat that there's more cars in the market already than there were a couple of months ago. And even if some of them aren't in the United States yet, they're coming, and that's what's really key. Now, the one kind of outlier in all of this is Toyota. Toyota's been really funny about the way they've been talking about getting into the electric car business. They didn't want to get into it. They fought the legislation. Then they backed off and said, okay, we're going to have an agreement with Tesla, and we're going to use some of their technology to create things, which sounds great on paper. And then so far, they haven't done much. And behind the scenes, apparently, as far as I can tell, they continue to work for legislation to back down on the electric vehicle standards and to continue to produce the cars that they want to produce, rather than moving to a greener energy. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Certainly, financial is one of them. The fact that the battery technology isn't quite where they want it to be, that's another one. They are heavily invested into the hydrogen cell, which I suppose is good. I'm not sure that that really is at a point yet where it's scalable and you can actually put them out there, because it's not like you can charge it at home. You have to take it to a market where there is a hydrogen cell charging network, and that has to be fueled much like the much like the gas stations do, where you have to bring a truck there and actually put the hydrogen in the ground before it can be put into your car. So, you know, there aren't that many out there. And in South Florida, where I live, there aren't many out there at all. So it's kind of an interesting thing how they're kind of trying to dominate that market, though that market isn't proven yet. And I understand the whole battery thing. You know, they're not ready for, they don't think the battery market is quite ready, and it's hard to get the batteries, and there's a limited quantity of some of the materials that are required for them. So until that battery evolution happens, I totally am on board with what they're saying, but I don't think they're right in how they're approaching it at this point. I think there's more to it, and I think there needs to be more happening there. So you've heard about, they had a one car that they were going to produce, and it was some sort of an EV car that they were going to put out there, and they put it at a showcase. It's a RAV4 basically. It's, I can't remember what there's an acronym they use for it, but they want to put that, they produced one of it, but it's not a finished copy. It's not even a fully fleshed out version yet. And they said, yeah, it's coming in 2020. And then it became like, you know, now they're saying maybe 2026, or that would be their first car, and it'd be, you know, like Japan first or China first or something. And then after that, they'll consider how they get it into the US market. So now you're talking like 10, 12 years from now before they actually enter the market. In the meantime, they're promoting their hybrid cars. And as I've talked about before, hybrids, you know, it's kind of a hack to a large degree. You're putting two engines in the car and still using your gas engine as your primary means of going. And there's goods and bads that go with that. It's, you know, now you've created something that's more expensive and they can charge more for it, and it has more parts that can break, and yet you're still building a gas car essentially. So there's something kind of strange about that they don't want to get in that market, and they're still fighting against any legislation that would produce more EVs. So it's kind of weird, and they're in a strange place, and I can't, for being a large automaker, you know, one of the largest automakers, it's kind of strange that they're not just jumping on and saying, hey, let's at least make a couple of cars that we can put in the marketplace. I'm not saying they should make all their cars. They don't have to go the full route of like Chevy or Ford or whoever else, or even, you know, Tesla, where they're saying all our cars are electric. They could certainly do other things. And speaking of hybrids, in a way, there was some discussion about, there was a prototype of a Tesla hybrid, which had a gas engine. I think it was made by someone else. Someone had bought a Tesla and sort of re-engineered it to put an engine in it. I wasn't quite sure how that netted out. But I was kind of intrigued, because it's not something that I don't think Tesla would do, but it was something kind of interesting to see, sort of as a prototype, just to see how that would work. Not saying it's right, just an interesting thing somebody was playing around with a little bit. And, you know, here's the thing, people play around with the technology, and this is how the technology improves. By continuing to come up with better ideas and changing the way you think about the technology, it gets better. So there's some really neat things that are happening in the world, and I think it's kind of intriguing. Everybody's talking about, how do you improve battery life? How do you improve the battery design? You know, the batteries that we have in these cars, you know, they're little AA batteries basically. You know, there's a lot of them. They're in the bottom part of the car, so it makes the car very heavy on the bottom. But that's it. You know, it's kind of strange the way they do that, and that's all there is to it. You know, there should be more technology, more things we could do with the batteries, you know, using different solid state things and other things. And I'll talk about some of those ideas in a future video. I've got some interesting notions on that, but I don't want to spend the time here. Just wanted to kind of generally bring that up. But anyway, that was it. I just wanted to kind of talk about the cars and sort of how the car process is going. Not much else to talk about. I'm not really driving a whole lot these days again. You know, living in South Florida, things are kind of as they are. There's not, you know, a strange thing to say, right? There's not much really happening. The COVID cases continue to climb here in Florida, and, you know, it's kind of a hot spot in the world. So I'm just staying home. You know, my work hasn't asked me to come back to work. So I'm like, okay, I'll just keep working from home. And, you know, I go to the grocery store, and I, you know, go to the places I need to, and that's it. You know, that's the way I live my life right now. So maybe one day I'll be able to get back out again and do some other things, and, you know, be able to actually start enjoying life again. But for now, there's really no place to go. So that's all I wanted to talk about, just sort of give you a couple of general updates, and hopefully you're all staying safe and doing good things too. And that's it for now. Catch you later.